The Life and Death of the Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy.
Elizabeth Jane and her mother had arrived some 20 minutes earlier. Finally, however, they had found courage to enter, and duly met Stanage, the landlord, a silent man. Elizabeth and her mother were passively accepted as sojourners, and shown to a small bedroom under one of the gables, where they sat down. "'Tis too good for us. We can't meet it," said the elder woman, looking round the apartment with misgiving as soon as they were left alone. "I fear it is too," said Elizabeth. "But we must be respectable." "We must pay our way even before we must be respectable," replied her mother. "Mr. Henchard is too high for us to make ourselves known to him, I much fear. So we've only our own pockets to depend on." If there was one good thing more than another which characterized this single-hearted girl, it was a willingness to sacrifice her personal comfort and dignity to the common weal. The mistress of the house, however, was an easy woman to strangers. Thereupon Elizabeth, being instructed by nods and motions from the taciturn landlord as to where she could find the different things, trotted up and downstairs with materials for her own and her parents' meal. While she was doing this, the wood partition in the center of the house thrilled to its center with the tugging of a bell pull upstairs. A bell below tinkled a note that was feebler in sound than the twanging of wires and cranks that had produced it. "'Tis the Scotch gentleman," said the landlady omnisciently, and turning her eyes to Elizabeth. "Now then, can you go and see if his supper is on the tray? If it is, you can take it up to him. The front room over this." Elizabeth Jane, though hungry, willingly postponed serving herself a while, and applied to the cook in the kitchen, whence she brought forth the tray of supper viands, and proceeded with it upstairs to the apartment indicated. The accommodation of the three mariners was far from spacious, despite the fair area of ground it covered. Thus Elizabeth found that the Scotchman was located in a room quite close to the small one that had been allotted to herself and her mother. When she entered, nobody was present but the young man himself, the same whom she had seen lingering without the windows of the King's Arms Hotel. Elizabeth fetched their simple provisions, as she had fetched the Scotchman's, and went up to the little chamber where she had left her mother, noiselessly pushing open the door with the edge of the tray. To her surprise, her mother, instead of being reclined on the bed where she had left her, was in an erect position, with lips parted. At Elizabeth's entry she lifted her finger. The room allotted to the two women had at one time served as a dressing room to the Scotchman's chamber, as was evidenced by signs of a door of communication between them, now screwed up and pasted over with the wallpaper. Every word spoken in either of these rooms was distinctly audible in the other. Such sounds came through now. Thus silently conjured, Elizabeth deposited the tray, and her mother whispered as she drew near, "'Tis he." "Who?" said the girl. "The mayor." The tremors in Susan Henchard's tone might have led any person but one so perfectly unsuspicious of the truth as the girl was, to surmise some closer connection than the admitted simple kinship as a means of accounting for them. The girl noiselessly laid out their little meal, and beckoned to her mother to join her, which Mrs. Henchard mechanically did, her attention being fixed on the conversation through the door. "I merely strolled in on my way home, to ask you a question about something that has excited my curiosity," said the mayor with careless geniality. But I see you have not finished supper. Aye, but I will be done in a little, ye needn't go, sir. Take a seat. I've almost done, and it makes no difference at all? Henchard seemed to take the seat offered, and in a moment he resumed, Well, first I should ask, did you write this? A rustling of paper followed. Yes, I did, said the Scotchman. Then, said Henchard, I am under the impression that we have met by accident while waiting for the morning to keep an appointment with each other? My name is Henchard. Ha'n't you replied to an advertisement for a corn factor's manager that I put into the paper? Ha'n't you come here to see me about it? No, said the Scotchman, with some surprise. Surely you are the man, went on Henchard, insistingly, who arranged to come and see me. You're wrong, said the young man. My name is Donald Farfrae. It is true I am in the corn trade, but I have replied to no advertisement, and arranged to see no one. I am on my way to Bristol, from there to the other side of the world to try my fortune in the great wheat-growing districts of the West. I have some inventions useful to the trade, and there is no scope for developing them here. To America, well, said Henchard, in a tone of disappointment. The Scotchman murmured another negative, and there was a silence, till Henchard resumed, Then I am truly and sincerely obliged to you for the few words you wrote on that paper. It was nothing, sir. Well, it has a great importance for me just now. The young man reflected a moment or two. I don't know that I have any objection, he said. I'm going to another country, and curing bad corn is not the line I'll take up there. Yes, I'll tell ye the whole of it. You'll make more out of it here than I will in a foreign country. Just look here a minute, sir. I can show ye by a sample in my carpet bag. These few grains will be sufficient to show ye with, came in the young fellow's voice, and after a pause, during which some operation seemed to be intently watched by them both, he exclaimed, There, now do you taste that? It's complete, quite restored, or, well, nearly. Quite enough restored to make good seconds out of it, said the Scotchman. To fetch it back entirely is impossible. Nature won't stand so much as that, but here you go a great way towards it. My business, you know, is in corn and in hay, but I was brought up as a hay trusser simply, and hay is what I understand best, though I now do more in corn than in the other. If you'll accept the place, you shall manage the corn branch entirely, and receive a commission in addition to salary. Said Henchard. You're liberal, very liberal, but no, I can't. The young man still replied, with some distress in his accents. So be it, said Henchard conclusively. Come to my house. I can find something better for ye than cold ham and ale. Very well, said Henchard quickly, please yourself. But I tell you, young man, if this holds good for the bulk, as it has done for the sample, you have saved my credit, stranger though you be. What shall I pay you for this knowledge? Nothing at all, nothing at all. Henchard paused. I shan't soon forget this, he said. And from a stranger. I couldn't believe you were not the man I had engaged. Says I to myself, he knows who I am, and recommends himself by this stroke. And yet it turns out, after all, that you are not the man who answered my advertisement, but a stranger. Henchard again suspended his words, and then his voice came thoughtfully. Your forehead, Farfrae, is something like my poor brother's, now dead and gone. And the nose, too, isn't unlike his. You must be, what, 5'9", I reckon? I have been looking for such as you these 2 year, and yet you are not for me. Well, before I go, let me ask this, though you are not the young man I thought you were, what's the difference? Can't ye stay just the same? Have you really made up your mind about this American notion? I won't mince matters. I feel you would be invaluable to me, that needn't be said, and if you will bide and be my manager I will make it worth your while. My plans are fixed, said the young man in negative tones. I have formed a scheme. The young man appeared much moved by Henchard's warm convictions of his value. He was silent till they reached the door. I wish I could stay, sincerely I would like to, he replied. But no, it cannot be. It cannot. I want to see the world,